at this point, I'm going to be about a third of our faculty, about 25, 26 people who will be actively serving on a committee, although everyone else will have roles in terms of getting information for us, developing artifacts to demonstrate that we really are doing the things we say we are. The process has been streamlined. It used to be 18 months of a self-study process. Ours is actually going to start in February and should be wrapping up around October. They've added a new step, what's called a collaborative conference, which we'll explain to you in some detail, where they'll be coming to us next year, basically 2 years ahead of the decennial reaccreditation visit, to get a sort of a check-in of where are we now and where would we like to be 2 years from now. Coming out of that, we'll develop a growth plan, and that growth plan, fortunately, will be something that we can really tie in closely to district improvement efforts. In other words, the strategic plan we just developed this summer. And hopefully, in a little budget savings here, the decennial accreditation visit is not going to be as lengthy and not include as many people as they had in previous versions of the NEAIT process. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of a savings to the town and less of complete interruption of the work of the school for a week that December.
The reason he says that we're required to put people up in hotels and feed them and provide access to computers and copiers.
Typically an 18-person team, 18 hotel rooms from Sunday through Wednesday, all of their meals, all of their travel expenses from wherever they may be sent from. It's never mind the educational impact, the financial impact of the old system was daunting, and I'm not going to lie to you, there will still be a financial impact in that year, but it won't be nearly as great as it has been in the past. So Mandy is going to talk with us about the standards themselves for accreditation. They have changed a little bit from some of the versions in the NEAIT process.
So there are only 5 standards now where there used to be 7. So again, the process has been really nice to streamline for us. They kind of grouped some of the old standards together where we used to have a standard that was just specifically curriculum or instruction or assessment. They kind of put all of those together, and you can see standard 2 and standard 3 are actually, kind of the big chunk of what kind of encompasses those 3 old standards with student learning, professional practices. Learning culture used to be kind of what our core values used to be. So all of the old 7 standards are all here still. It's just been streamlined into 5. So when we did the process before, there was a little bit of repetition in terms of the evidence that we were collecting for each of those 7 standards. There's obviously quite a bit of overlap in what we're looking for. So we're pretty happy knowing that now all of that we're looking for is really only in those 5 standards. Part of those standards contain what are now known as foundational elements. So those are kind of the standards or those elements that a school must be able to demonstrate that they have evidence that they need these foundational elements. There are things like you have a written curriculum, you have a strategic plan, your school is safe. So fortunately, we're pretty confident that we do meet all of these foundational elements already. But that's kind of a portion that's really embedded in the standards already. So again, these are written curriculum, site plans, our core values, strategic plans, things like that. So we're confident that we can kind of move forward from the foundational evidence and start collecting evidence to show what we need for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Erica is going to talk a little bit about the new accreditation process with an emphasis on the early phases of it.
Okay, so a lot of this was mentioned, so I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail. But as you can see, as number 1, just the new process provides us with more time to spend with MEAS, or the Commission of Public Schools, to work with them on our self-reflection study and also on our growth, our school growth plan that will come out of the whole process. Like Andre said before, we're going to be not necessarily the whole entire staff working together on these, individual standards, but we'll have a self-reflection committee that is going to be broken up into different standards, but we are going to be using the whole entire faculty and staff to get artifacts and evidence. It also encourages the integration of the school district priorities. So that's where the strategic school plan comes into play. It was already developed, so we already have identified areas of growth, and so we're going to be using those action steps to incorporate into our school growth plan. Like Andre said, it's a smaller visiting team. It's going to cost less to the district. And the overall recommendations aren't going to be as many because we are going to be targeting certain areas that we need to grow. So right now we're starting the process. This winter we started, and the visit will be in 2020. Budget cycle is starting now, and it's going to take about 2 to 6 months to write the or to correct down the evidence and to do the self-reflection. We're going to implement a school growth plan along with the strategic school plan. So the accreditation steering committee, it consists of 6 teachers and administrators that we've already picked. We're going to have a meeting the next couple of weeks to start going over what we're planning on doing. It's just the oversight committee. We are in charge of basically communicating everything to all the stakeholders, the progress of what's going on. And then the self-reflection committee, we already have 19 teachers, staff, and administrators on the committee. We're going to be sending out a survey to parents, faculty, and staff. We're going to look at the kind of conditions they're going to take care. Look at any capacity for continuous growth. We have all the resources available. Look for goals and see our vision in the future, and look for priority areas.
Thank you. And once we're done, that will lead to the collaborative conference visit, which Mary will explain to you.
Which is kind of, as a teacher, I'm kind of excited about the addition of this. After we do our self-reflection and we figure out what our goals are, I think this is a great change where they're actually going to come and visit and check in with us. And the collaborative conference is a much smaller kind of visiting committee. They're only going to be here for 2 days, so they'll come into the school, they'll do a tour, they'll do classroom visits, they'll meet obviously with the steering committee, they'll meet with the self-reflection committee, and it's kind of like a check-in. They're going to give us a little, here you are, this is what you did, here's the data that you collected, these are the goals you came up with, and they're going to give us kind of a midway check-in to see how we're doing. Whereas in the past, we would be doing all of this work for months and months, and the only contact we would really have was at the end. So it's kind of like giving my students a project and never giving them any feedback along the way and expecting them to have a perfect finished product. They have definitely revised this to make it much more user-friendly. So this is kind of our check-in with this collaborative conference. They'll come and they'll make sure we meet all those foundational elements I talked about. They'll take a look at our goals, right, and our school improvement plan. They'll give us feedback. They'll help us develop it, make sure we're headed in the right direction, and really kind of give us that push that we need to make sure when they come in 2020 that everything that we need, our ducks will kind of all be in a row for the actual visit. They'll give a report for us. Like we said, we haven't gone through this yet, and actually no school has actually had a collaborative conference yet. The 3 of us are on a list to actually go out to other schools who are doing this before us so that we can kind of see how a collaborative visit goes. Hopefully we'll be able to do that, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this makes the process run a little bit more smoothly and hopefully a little easier in terms of what we're doing.
Thank you. And after the collaborative conference visit and the report, that's when we really develop a school growth plan for the next 2 years. Now, the school leadership team will be responsible for that growth plan. That will be the administrators as well as the department chairs and steering committee members. Of course, the faculty will have an opportunity to give input into it. And then after that, we'll have 18 months to start implementing that plan. And whereas in the original version of the NEASC process, the committee is coming and basically opening all the cupboards, looking under all the carpets, seeing everything. What they're going to do in this new version of the NEASC process is they're going to focus on those areas we said we wanted to work on, that improvement plan. And they'll want to know, okay, you started here when we were here in 2018. It's now 2020. Where have you gone from there? what's the evidence of growth? How have you impacted student learning? How have you gotten closer to the ideal in the standards? And that will be the focus, which is the reason why they'll be giving us fewer recommendations, ideally, because those recommendations will deal with the things that we've already identified that we want to work on and that we want their feedback on. And one of the nice things about it, this last point right here, historically the NEASC has not wanted to look at anything in a format other than their own set of standards. But in this new iteration of the NEASC standards, they're saying that high school improvement plans should be embedded in a larger district-wide improvement plan. So in other words, we've developed a K-12 strategic plan at just the right time, because that is going to really be the driver that's going to guide us in our improvement as we go forward through the process. So just to finish out, a few significant dates to keep in mind. It says tentative, but tomorrow I'm hoping to delete the word tentative there when I confirm with Allison Geary, who is one of the deputy directors of the NEASC. She will be coming to visit in February, most likely on the 6th. She will meet with the administrative team. She will meet with the steering committee. She'll meet with the self-reflection committee, and then she'll meet with the whole faculty after school in a faculty meeting to really set the stage for us, answer questions. They know that we are one of those guinea pig first-year people in the new process, and they want to make sure that we really understand what's being asked of us. So that's also something new that's been included in the process that I think is going to be very beneficial to us. Then, coming right out of that into next fall will be the self-reflection process, where we really will go through all of the standards. And then in October or November, we haven't set a final date yet for that, will be the collaborative conference when 2 to 4 members will come and visit with us. And then, working on it until 2020, and if you're one of those real advanced planners, mark off December 2020 in your calendar, because that's the decennial visit itself. That's a Sunday. They'll get here that afternoon. They'll stay through till either Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday, depending on how they refine the process a little bit between now and then. And there will be a definite active role for board members in that. They will want to have a focus group where they talk with at least some members of the board about your work with the high school, your perception of it, community perception of it. And that is going to be the big show. So that's what we've got for you. If you've got any questions for us.
Questions or comments from the board?
Will the board members have to fill out a survey again like we did before?
We're going to find out a lot more about that when Allison comes to us in February, but there is a community member survey that we do know is targeted towards parents, but they can be filled out by anyone with an active interest in the school.
I remember, I took part in 2 of them, and I remember the last one was really nice because all the board members came and met them, and they were impressed with that.
It's always great to have as much representation as possible to really demonstrate that community support for the school.
Right. And I'm curious to see if you don't know if there'll be any people visiting us that were on the last one, do you?
That's pretty unlikely.
Because that's a part of our high school. Some of their comments before because we had the older high school.
Or the high school needed improvement.
So I'm really proud of our high school now.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Very well.
Thank you, high school team. Much appreciated.
Yeah, nice job. Good luck.
We will certainly keep you updated throughout the process, share relevant documents so you can see our work and whatnot.
Strategic plan.
Sure. Just wanted to provide you with as many regular updates as I can on our progress on the strategic plan. We are in the midst of a social-emotional learning inventory of what are all those buckets of work in social-emotional learning that we're doing in the district, working towards getting that in a final shareable form. Our district data team started meeting this month after a snow out in December. We've met twice this month, and we are actively engaged in conducting an assessment inventory, looking at what are all the assessments that we're administering in the district, who is taking them, why are they taking them, are we using that data, how are we using that data, and then we'll make some decisions around, are there assessments that we're missing we should add, are there assessments we're giving that are serving no purpose, do we keep them, do we get rid of them? So that work is in process. In February, we'll participate in a district initiative mapping exercise. What are all those initiatives in the district that we're doing? Again, what's their purpose? Who are engaged in those? Are they benefiting us? If they're not benefiting us, should we continue to do them? All of those types of questions. So you can see we are busy with strategic plan work, and it's finding it, teams are finding it beneficial. Craig, do you want to add anything on the last two district data team meetings?
I think you encapsulated that. I think this will be a start, a model, how to use data to drive instruction, that we continue the full goal that we expect that principals model with their schools after this, that we model at the district level. So we're starting a new kind of very productive system.
We also continue to message this to the community in various ways. We have a new simplified webpage version, which you can see up there, which puts the 5 main topics with graphics, and each of those 5 categories are hot links taking you to a different webpage that drills down on those areas. So again, trying to simplify it for the public if they want to do a deeper dive on our strategic plan. So kudos to Caroline for designing that. Appreciate your work on that. Just a couple other quick hitters. Thank Quaker Hill for their student work this month. It's always a joy to see parents and students trickle up here after school to find their work on the walls. We've also updated our district safety plan. No major changes. We obviously have new personnel in the district, so we needed to add them to the portfolio of people responsible for implementing the plan. And we've updated the plan with Lieutenant Bellis happens to be in charge of our EOC, Emergency Operations Center, so we've updated to address the rare earthquake we might have, tornadoes, public health crises, hurricanes, other natural disasters. We had to add some additional elements, so we'll be submitting that to the state in short order. Speaking of crises, Mr. Powers has participated in the first meeting of a regional task force on Lyme disease. That is something that has certainly been prevalent in our region. I believe you said you were the only school personnel person there in the region.
That meeting.
Yes.
This will be an 18-month endeavor for the task force, for which representatives from legislative will be speaking to our health and safety committee. So we're going to be starting the base data this year on that, and then I think that you're probably having them present as a learn curriculum network, so that all of contemporaries will do that, and that would be a better way to disseminate the information out. So we'll back off every month for the next week.
Craig and I met with a team from the high school this week to discuss developing opportunities for students to earn credit in settings other than a traditional classroom. We do have some of those opportunities already through internships in our high school business program, but looking really at other ways, whether it's independent studies, students who want to do a deeper dive in a certain area. So we're beginning that process of developing a proposal that we'll bring to the board later this spring. Really exciting work in that area. This month we continued our regular elementary principals meetings and secondary administrator meetings. We put these in this year to really focus some discussion around focused discussion on teaching and learning. During that time we collectively visit classrooms, look at instruction, and discuss what's going on with teaching and learning in the schools. It's been very beneficial. Believe it or not, we actually met to begin planning Summer Academy this week. Hard to believe, but an initial meeting has been held on that. Joe Mancini, our finance director, has begun to work on a plan to relocate our bus lot as the municipal building complex project gets underway. We're going to have to relocate our buses for a couple of years. So the reason I mention that, because normally operational things like that, but there's going to be some costs associated with that relocation, such as temporary fencing. We're going to have to rent a trailer at that different location, things like that. which we're confident will fund, but we will keep you updated on that. Finally, budget is in the final stages. Our plan is to have those budget books delivered to you tomorrow at your homes. This should give you ample time to review prior to our first budget workshop on February 8th. We'll keep a similar format as we have in recent years in that on February 8th, I'll do a comprehensive overview of the entire budget so you get the whole thing in one night. You certainly don't need to wait till February 8th to ask questions, so if there's questions, which I know there will be, as they come up, feel free to contact us at any time for clarification. Related to the budget is the fact that you'll see in my budget a recommendation that the athletic director position become an administrator position in our district, which would be a district AD as opposed to a school-based AD. We did find out recently from the Connecticut State Department of Education around some recent changes that would allow us to keep it a school-based AD under the teacher ranks. With that said, you will see it in my budget recommendation. And certainly throughout February, I'll provide ample background information why I think that's the proper recommendation, but certainly it'll be up to the board final on that. But I did want to update you on the latest information related to that. Finally, I'd like to announce that Mr. Osmond, principal at Oswegatchie School, has informed us of his intent to retire at the end of the year. So congratulations. Why?
Too young. Congratulations.
We'll certainly celebrate you more later in the spring because there's much work to be do between now and June 30th. The reason I mention that is we'll be running a full search process for that position, and has been the case with the last two searches. We welcome board member participation on those early rounds. Obviously, the final candidate comes to the board for approval, but we welcome board member information, and as we get a timeline out, we will put that out to the board, and if there is interest in serving on that, Mr. Chair, if you want those names, or if you want them to come to Caroline.
I think as in the past, if they could be filtered through Caroline, and then she can get them to me.
Perfect. So we'll kick out those dates in short order. That's something I'll get on tomorrow. So again, we welcome board member involvement on that for sure. These are important decisions. Any questions or comments? Happy to answer them.
Yeah.
Talking about your data team and the work you're doing, one of our concerns on the board has been math scores, and we see them annually. I was wondering if in your work you could present the board with a mid-year update from some of the mid-year testing on math progress, like we did last year, and I'd like to, if we could do it by grade level, maybe 5 through 8.
Sure.
If we want to invite the RTM or make them aware of it, and certainly invite the Board of Finance to express their interest in that type of information.
Sure. So we'll have that. Our goal will be the February meeting.
Yeah, it depends on your data committee. How if the mid-year, it's math testing, right? Math testing. Math. So are those results in?
Those are administered 3 times a year, so
we should have some. Okay.
We have some.
I just want to do a little dipstick so we don't do it once a year, because then we're too late.
Happy to share that data.
I just wanted to add, they actually start in third. What do you want third?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Yeah. Go early.
Profile from kindergarten through 10th grade.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Sure.
Did you want SBAC as well, or just now?
Well, the SBAC, are you doing,
so we
don't have
the
SBAC.
SBAC scores last year in October. We'll administer them this spring, but we won't get
we don't have those yet. We don't have,
unfortunately, we don't get those.
We already saw the SBAC.
Any other questions or comments?
And
Thank you.
that's my report.
Moving on, I have just a very brief report. Tom and I have been meeting weekly, and we intend to continue that. You'll see under new business that we will be formally stating what the purpose of the committees are that we create. We're required to do that. There's some committees that we had in the past that are not being recommended for formation. Health insurance could be one, simply as needed. If we have a need for that type of thing, we can create it during the year. In the past, we've had a self-evaluation committee, but that's really a matter for the body as a whole to reflect upon. On our 16th bank, council has told us that board members should not be involved because of privacy laws. On school liaisons, Jody and I had a conversation last month, and the Parents Liaison Council really does a great job in terms of meeting that need, and we as members of the board are really liaisons to all our schools anyway, so we're not going to act on that. On the agenda, you may see a couple little tweaks, little differences, for example, with respect to correspondence. It'll be included in your packet unless it's something non-routine, very important, or from an important person. It won't be read orally to the board, but you're certainly free at any point to raise a question or comment about any correspondence in your packet. And that's it on my report, other than to say, contrary to your notes, it won't be given everyone. But in your package are the minutes from the Finance Committee last month. Self-explanatory. So now we're on to new business, and my meetings with Tom, we're both recommending that for this year we establish 4 committees. The first committee would be the Finance Committee. I think that's pretty obvious. Policy Committee is another committee that we know we need on an ongoing basis. The Committee on Residency and Transportation we need in the event that there are any challenges or decisions that have to be made. And the final recommendation is one for the Committee on Community Use of Schools. As you know, we've just entered into a memorandum of understanding with the town, and I think we want to stay on top of that, make sure that it's working correctly from our point of view. And if it starts to go astray, or we see some areas that can be improved on, we can get involved right away so that we can make this work for everyone. What I would like to have is the pleasure of the board is a motion to first approve the creation of those 4 committees for this year. Marcia.
I'd like to make a motion that we have 4 committees for the year: Policy Committee, the Finance Committee, the Ad Hoc Residency and Transportation Committee, and the Ad Hoc Community Use of Schools.
That's not an ad hoc.
Okay, just
strike that. And the ad hoc should be struck from the
okay.
Yeah, these should be standing committees.
Well, they're not standing committees yet.
Not yet.
And make them stand the committee.
Well, that'll come.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
That has to come later.
Okay. So I would like to move that we have these 4 committees.
Okay, so the motion is that we create a Finance Committee, a Policy Committee, a Committee on Residency and Transportation, and a Committee on Community Use of Schools. Can I have a second to that motion? Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next thing we need to do under our bylaws is to tell these committees in writing what their purposes, functions, and duties are. As you go through the purposes, functions, and duties written down for each of these committees, I think you'll see that they're pretty common sense. They track what you would think would be the function of that committee. Unless there are any questions or concerns, I think a motion to approve the purposes, functions, and duties of the 4 committees as presented would be in order.
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
All the other committees have a regular report to at every board meeting, but the community use of schools is only an annual one. What was the reason for that?
Well, that's more of an overview committee.
Okay.
they're not necessarily every month going to happen, but we want to have them look at it. We thought possibly probably a snapshot in November of every year as we approach budget time, so it could be part of our budget planning.
And there were other people, is that, what are the numbers that would be on that? Or was it?
No, this is just a board committee.
That's all right.
They will be in communication with their counterparts.
Okay.
There is a town committee, I believe.
Right. That's what it is.
Oh, that's going away.
That's going away.
Okay.
So this is just the board's committee?
It's the board's committee to monitor how this is working from our point of view.
Okay.
Okay, so,
So who would they meet with?
They would meet with themselves, they would be in communication with the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
There's still a lot of activity going on, but that particular committee doesn't have any more function.
Because we did the memorandum of agreement. Okay.
And the administration, the Park and Rec is working through the building principal.
Gotcha.
Good.
And also, I attended some of those meetings, and also, Tom can probably explain better than I can, but it's a 4-year, plan. And that's why I'm really happy you added that for other communities, because I think we really should keep an eye on how much it costs and everything else, and give it to the board.
And there is an exit mechanism after that 4 years,
Right.
if it's not working, but we don't want to be in a position where we have to exit. We want it to work.
Right.
So,
Right. No, definitely.
And which one of these committee lists is the right one?
The one,
The beige,
the beige one that was at your place tonight, yes. That is the latest.
And it would be really accurate if you take off ad hoc, and it's perfect.
No, they're good, because I was on.
I know you were.
do you think 2 people is enough? Okay.
This one here says.
Board members are always welcome to sit in on that.
I just looked at finance, the difference was that.
So do we need to have a motion to approve these?
We need a motion to approve the purposes, functions, and duties for the 4 committees as presented.
Okay. I will move that the written document purposes, functions, and duties of established committees be accepted as written for the purposes of our committees.
Is there a second to that? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the appointment of the members to the various committees. And you have a list here. The most current one we'll find under Atlantic Broadband. Craig is being listed. If there are no comments or questions, a motion would be in order to approve the appointments as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, we have an agreement with respect to our school resource officer with the police department. Jody,
I'm sorry, what's the question? Are we going to do committee reports?
can I skip that?
Only one we
Well,
have
we
is
did the board
finance.
chair and the finance subcommittee, but we don't necessarily have.
Were there any,
other reports?
See, the reason we skipped that is that technically, all our committees expired at our organizational meeting. So I don't know how we're going to have a committee report.
Well, no, I'm appointed. Oh, I see. I'm appointed.
But certainly youth services we would like to hear from.
No, I have really great news. March 23rd is going to be Dancing with the Stars at Waterford High School.
March 23rd.
We're going to do it with the flying again, and we're going to have one, either our town is going to win. This year we're going to have 2 youth teams, students from the high school. And the money from Dancing with the Stars, we're hoping will help offset Tim Wakefield's visit. Danny lined up to have Tim Wakefield. I hope everybody knows who he is. He's an ex-Red Sox baseball player. And he's going to come and speak to the whole high school in May.
Not as good as Spaceman.
Not as good as
Spaceman.
Billy.
Okay, and what I like a lot about Tim Wakefield is I respect and I admire the athletes that have overcome drug addiction and alcoholism, but I really admire Tim Wakefield too because he never took part in any of that. I think it's important for our students to hear of athletes that didn't, do drugs or drink or anything. So he has a great presentation. He looks for yes, and Andy will have a date pretty soon for us, so we can plan on that. Also, Youth Grove had 171 families this year at Christmas time that needed help. They were able to get almost all the families adopted, and the families that they weren't able to adopt, they had so many donations they were able to make sure that they all received some presents and food. And Youth of the Thrill has a bigger challenge this year because senior services no longer help 50 to 65-year-olds like they used to. So a lot of fuel assistance requests from people that are struggling that need help. Now it's going to Youth of the Thrill, so they have a lot more calls to help. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And they started their programs again, and we're looking forward to, like I said, dancing with the stars. I hope everybody can attend. It's really a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Back to 9C, discussion of possible action on school resource officer agreement.
Sure. Give a brief overview and certainly provided some information in the board packet. We have 2 school resource officers in our district. One is a middle school and high school, and since around 2006-2007, funding has been flat, and as we know, over time, salaries go up and benefits go up and those sorts of things. So the chief and I met and discussed an increase in our contribution. The overall MOU, we're required by law to have this, have an MOU if there are school resource officers, and the vast majority of the MOU is identical to the one that we renewed. The only changes are the funding, and we cited the proper statutes around search and seizure of students. But back to the finances, currently we pay $30,000 total for those 2 officers to be in our schools from September to June, and an additional $5,000 for overtime, directing traffic when there's a big game and things like that. This would increase our contribution from $30,000 to $35,000 for the salary portion, and increase the overtime portion of what we pay from $5,000 to $6,000, so a $1,000 increase. To put it in perspective, the average officer salary is about $75,000. Not necessarily the people in those positions because they're more veteran, but the average in overtime costs approach $10,000 on a yearly basis. So the short story is we have a good deal, but asking for a slight increase and support that, and I know Lieutenant Bellows is here if there's additional information.
Comments or questions? Yeah.
2 for $35,000, or it's $35,000 per?
Total.
That's a good deal. I mean, get the car started! Start the car!
And we have a great relationship with the police department. It works.
Why are they only there 4 days?
The 5th day,
we have a 5 and 3 schedule. So they're there 5 days a week for the next week rotated, and there's always an SRO on there.
And this includes the police officers that are at all the basketball games doing football?
The overtime does it. Dances, anything that you guys require.
Anyone else? Okay, we need to approve this, so a motion to approve the agreement will be in order. Jody?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
thank you, Lieutenant.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, we have item D, discussion of possible action Waterford High School course, Technology Education Department, Innovation in Engineering. Carlos.
Thank you. So, occasionally, we have great recommendations from our department to change a course outside of the normal curriculum cycle. Just two examples of that. We are bringing to the board now so that they can be effectively advertised in program studies to start on their approval in the fall. This course is in the department, so this capacity is here. If there are questions beyond my first comment. The Tech Ed department did a whole curriculum renewal in 2015. We really created a new course on innovation and engineering, semester-long opportunity. Faculty feel to teach it that it would be better served for them to a full credit course or a full year course so that they could go deeper into the problem-solving approach, and they can also really include a whole measurement in engineering, physics of engineering, electric energy into it. And by making it a full year course, it will more properly align with sort of mutual credit for Prerequisites community college.
What pathway does this go
So
on?
that would be on the technology pathway.
Okay.
STEM pathway. It's a CTE course for either college or career guidance students.
Other board members. Jody.
I was really impressed with the curriculum, and I think it can also help students get jobs in engaged, because they will have the background here, because it is going to be hard on a lot of people. And I'm glad we're looking at a full credit course, too.
Chris.
How many students are now in this half credit course?
That detail I'm going to divert either Chris or Andre as a field, or about how many in that particular course.
The second semester course is starts tomorrow. I haven't actually met with them yet. But my understanding is it is capped. It's at the maximum enrollment, which I believe is either 16 or 20 for this course, which it is. I'd have to confirm that for you. But there was definitely student interest. We have a large number of people interested in
Is the course that's starting tomorrow, it's the first time that you've run this course?
No, so Chris, so it's a currently a semester course, it's a 2015 semester course, and the high school this year placed the semester course opportunity for second year. So just in midterm, because of some of the snow delays, the second semester is beginning, and if the board approves these changes, then in the fall, this opportunity is a full year course.
Last year, how many students were in this course?
last year was the first year we offered it, and it was somewhere between 12 and 15. There we were on the top part.
So why change it now if you're only in its first year doing it? This is the second year. But this being the second year, why increase it if you've only done it this last year?
I can answer that. I had 2 courses in it, or 2 classes already, and it was, I couldn't get as much done as I wanted to. I looked the course up in 2015, I was very ambitious, and I wanted to cover some of our material, but I'm trying to problem solving. I gotta have them go deeper into a topic. I couldn't have them do that with the business message. We have to, work on a topic and move on. I got to maybe, take one project in a certain unit area, and then have them, if they wanted to, have that maybe go deeper in the second project. But with the special course, I couldn't do that. I wasn't able to, I kind of focus, well, we got the business, move on to the next project. And I feel that this course would be much better suited to a full-year classroom. So the fact that most of our advanced courses go to full-year.
So in a nutshell, it's the balance between the breadth of the content and the depth for which you can go in, and it's the recommendation that we give this a little more time so we can get the depth of understanding. And again, the 16-17 school year is relatively close, and 17-18 is one. So.
Okay, you had a question.
Thank you.
Will you be closing any students out that don't have room in their current schedule to do a full credit?
I don't believe that we will. I'm hoping that it actually won't fire up in the course because it is just cheaper.
Yeah. And do you primarily fill with freshmen?
No. This is a second class. We have the first production engineering class. And this is open to...
And is that a full year or half year? Okay.
And this is your afterwards. And this is open to them sophomores, juniors.
Okay.
Marcia?
I was going to ask the exact same question. How is it going to impact kids who have their schedules all laid out and,
Yeah, I thought of that as well, and I looked at the rest of our class, and students take full-year event courses in most of something else. So we have an effective enrollment in the class.
Troy?
Is this course a graduation requirement within science or math, or is this an elective? And if it's under STEM, but the certification for instruction is under Tech Ed?
Correct. So certified Tech Ed teacher, the department that is the teacher.
And it seems a lot of these topics would also apply in the next generation science standards under the engineering requirement. So I would need a little more to understand why this would be a separate full course and not integrated along with the new science standards.
Well, that's the advantage of having an MCAT but I feel that while some of the relevant science content is being taught in the sciences, and I think Amanda maybe pointed that a little bit, that this is again for students who deep into the technology area, have done engineering, again for either college-bound students or building coders, career-bound students. And so we think there's some overlap, but they are two distinct courses. I don't know if Amanda wanted to add anything to what I said.
We do cover science and technology standards in our curriculum for engineering in our science classes. So this is an additional, extra wonderful opportunity for students who do want to dive a little bit deeper. And we don't have, unfortunately, the time to go as deep as they do in this class with some of the engineering practices. So ours is more of problem solving and doing that in terms of each specific science content area. So kids who take this class would be getting even more. So it's not that they're not getting it in science classes, they are getting the standards, the speed, and the position that they do.
Yes, in the Technology Education Department's curriculum revision, we put a real emphasis on the types of courses that colleges that are focused on engineering and computer science are looking for our students. And they created this course as well as a computer coding class and a mobile app development class that we've really been getting a lot of students asking for. We're also hearing from colleges that they want to see in their engineering and computer science type programs. They want to see these courses on the transcript, and we figure we're giving kids a greater exposure and create a more marketable student to colleges by having that full year of exposure to a course that is strictly focused on engineering.
Any other questions? Julie?
Can I just, do you know what course materials you use already, or do you have to all, so that they're all processed and
Anyone else? What's the pleasure of the board? Okay, we have a motion to approve this. Jody?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to make a motion to approve, the innovation and engineering course and the semester course, one-time course.
Is there a second? Great. Any further discussion?
Just a comment that, I think there should be some opportunity for some collaboration between the tech and the hardcore sciences. It seems a little siloed. So, that's just a comment. I think that's what the Next Generation Science Standard is trying to open up, is for things like that.
Thank you, Joy. Marcia?
Are we doing this mainly because you didn't feel you had enough time to cover everything that the course originally had, or are we doing it because a lot of other schools are offering these types of things as a full-year program?
No, I think it would be the first that we did our curriculum, this is a new course, we tried it. When the faculty feels that they feel like they're just covering the material without going to the depth they want, that resonates with me. And so that was really the impetus for this change.
Are there a lot of other school systems that are offering this as a full-year course?
I haven't polled the region on that. I will say that Waterford has been innovative in its opportunities for different semester classes. So anecdotally, I would infer that most high schools would have these full-year classes. I think we've been creative in our social studies department and our science department, as well as our tech ed department, to provide more choice for students with the semester offering. And where that works, I think that has been very effective, but if a teacher feels that a little more time and productive struggle will bear better results, then that's, I think, a good academic reason to move.
If it's a more in-depth, I think that's a great idea. If it's just another project, I don't know that's something I'd be in favor of.
Well, and that's why my number was just as, problem solving for depth, the concept of peers, and different innovative problem solving strategies. In addition to, as our department had mentioned, the project. So I agree with you.
Okay, the motion is to approve the addition of innovation and engineering to the technology education curriculum. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item, discussion and possible action concerning Waterford High School course approval, Math Department, Coastal Navigation. Mr. Powers.
Thank you. So this has been a semester class in our program of studies for a number of years. Mr. Ellis brought this concept to the Math Department many years back. The target audience is really for students who may not want to pursue the pre-calculus calculus statistics as kind of the upperclassmen opportunities for math. They may be going to humanities or, as I said, career opportunities. So this is a nice practical math course. At the standard level, as you know, is our sort of lowest track. We then have advanced honors IT. And so by kind of increasing the breadth of the content and with the addition of a unit in radar products, we want to then differentiate the standard level version from an advanced level opportunity, and that's what's in front of you tonight. And if you have any questions or the
Board member, Jim, go ahead.
I have a lot of questions about this course. I'm very concerned about our math performance, as you are probably as department head in Waterford, and I was kind of shocked that this course is on the books. I'd rather use a math teacher to take larger classes of, algebra, geometry, and use the math person for that rather than this course. I don't see enough standards met with the math standards in some of the earlier lessons. I'm sure it's a great course. This isn't about the course, it's just about where I would want to spend our math resources. And
just maybe put a little more context. The semester class, right now, there are 2 sections offered, and one is in lieu of duty, so it's a 6th teaching period. So when you're expanding the opportunity to the advanced level, we're feeling that it's not like we're going to be increasing dramatically the number of sections, but maybe making, instead of like a very undersubscribed, there would be 6 assignments or a opportunity, an advanced opportunity. I feel that there are some students that are taking the advanced level that are college bound, that again may not need the higher level math classes, but would like the senior level math, and because of the weighted GPA, they might be disadvantaged just to take a standard level class. So just having 2 opportunities.
I get it completely. I think I'd rather them take a different opportunity, I guess is my point. So that's my concern.
So just to clarify, this is an existing board-approved course.
Right.
What we're talking about is bringing, it to the advanced level.
Yeah.
So.
And my point is I don't think it meets enough content to bring it to an advanced level for mathematics.
I just understand
Right.
that wasn't.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
I also have a lot of questions about this, and I don't know if you want to answer all my questions now or if we want to unpack this now. I guess you said it's the same course, but you're making it more rigorous. How many kids are in this course now? How many students are in this course now?
So currently we have 2 sections. So we have a class of 14 students, and then we have a class of 7. We know that under 12 is in lieu of duty. It's sort of a 6th period opportunity to run a class that's normally undersubscribed, but it would keep a teacher from having a duty period. So with having 2 levels, we're hoping to make it 2 full sections.
What were the prerequisites for this class before?
So for the standard level version of coastal navigation, the prerequisite is listed as successful completion of Algebra 1 at the standard level or Algebra 1 at the advanced level. And for the advanced version of this course, the prerequisite would be successful completion of Algebra 2 at least at the standard level. So, pre-algebra, Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2 could be opportunities before the social navigation.
Go ahead.
Is there a lot of interest for kids to take this course? That's the reason that you want to offer this course?
The purpose for this course is that we've gone through 2 years ago, have started teaching Algebra 1 standard in 1 year, and with a link, and we're doing that in order to try to improve our SAT scores, so therefore we're getting more juniors into Algebra 2 standard. In years past, when Algebra 2 standard was set up, it was set up as a senior level class. There was nothing after Algebra 2 standard.
what's happening now is because Algebra 2 Standard is becoming a junior level class, we now don't have a lot of options for these students who are going into their senior year. So when the math department sat down and took a look at that, we felt that maybe if we offered a advanced level of this, that would take some of the pressure off these students and give them a different opportunity for students who do not want to necessarily take your pre-calculus, your calculus 15 year. So in terms of your point when you're talking about the math scores, these are kids that are past that SAT point. They're not part of that, that cohort.
No, I'm so worried about how to prepare them for college.
Yeah.
So my concern is this doesn't have enough, in my opinion. Haven't seen it taught. I just don't think it has enough of the math standards.
If there's a student that's not strong in math, would they be eligible or able to take this course?
You are,
what we're talking about is the students that have gone through the Algebra 2 Standard as a junior. If they pass that course, then they would be able to go to take this course here. Because right now what happens is that the Algebra 2 Standard is if they want to go to their senior year, they've got Cost-Stat Standard and Coastal Nav Standard, which are options. Or if they're the top of the line, they can also go to Discrete Math Advanced or Cost-Stat Advanced. And what we were thinking is because we're going to have a lot more juniors than we currently do, because right now it is mostly a senior level class, we need another opportunity for them to take a math.
Right.
Why did you determine it should be coastal navigation?
Because right now we're just thinking about later on down the road. I believe our curriculum rewrite is not this summer but the following summer. And so in order to see if there was interest in it, to take an existing class that we had, add some parts to it, and then see what interest we had from the juniors.
Are there some other courses besides coastal navigation that you think?
No, you're absolutely right. But when the math department sat down and talked about it, it wasn't my suggestion. It was from the teachers that teach the Algebra 2 Standard. They said we think we've got a population that would like to take this class, but doesn't at the current time.
Anyone else?
I love applied math. I love the project with the science. I think that's exactly where we should be looking to do. So I don't have a problem with this as an elective per se. But again, it just seems to be siloed. So there doesn't seem to be opportunity for the really advanced kids to get their hands dirty and help the kids that may not necessarily have an affinity for these courses. And I would love to see this one semester and then you do something else. Another type of applied math that would really get the kids to understand, you do use algebra every day, right? So, I would love, that would, to me, would be ideal. It's just my comment.
What is the other class kids would typically take in the other semester?
It's normally you get a probability and statistics class or discrete math class.
Yeah.
If I can, the difference between the coastal nav and those other classes is that the coastal nav class is a hands-on class. They are doing chart work.
Right.
They're using parallel rulers. They're doing distance. They're doing vector work, but they don't understand its vector work when it comes to current. The advanced level class, and the standard level class is based off of the navigation portion of the captain's license. The advanced level class is not only that, but when you're a captain of a tugboat or a large boat, you now fall under a different license, and part of that license requires you to take the radar plotting course, which is not an easy course. You have radar, it talks about your course, the course of a boat approaching, what course do I have to take to steer off so I avoid a collision, or what speed I have to calculate the speed I've got to slow down to. And what they do is this is a course that is taken down in Virginia Beach, where they send these captains away for a week to learn this, so that they can pass this and get their license. So that was the thought process behind it. We are doing more math with it. It's not easy math that they have to do, and it's trying to take the course to the next level and seeing if we've got a population that would like to try that.
Jody?
I guess I was looking at this differently. Because we are a coastal town, I thought this was a great opportunity. My youngest son did get his captain's license for a small boat. He would have loved something like this.
Yeah.
And then also, I was hoping that it might bring some students from the Marine Science Academy in Groton. If they realize we're offering some courses like this, maybe they'll come back to Washington High School. I just thought it was a good, different course for students. And we do have a lot of students who are really interested in fishing and boating and things like that. And I think this is a course that will help them be better on boats. To know where they're going. I mean, I know how to read charts and everything else, so I thought it was a good opportunity for our students.
Other questions from the board?
What's the population of the junior class?
Just over 200.
Okay, and we're talking about less than 20.
Yeah.
Well, 23 this year.
Divided into two sections, so one would be the advanced and one would still be offered at the standard?
That's what we were envisioning.
We're hoping that by offering the advanced level, we'll draw a different pool of students to the class through that more rigorous math study. For students might be a little bit higher caliber and interested in a little more of a challenge.
But they'll be taught in two different sections.
That is the
You won't be having both of
No,
them.
it's not the same. It's two different.
One
classes.
advanced and one standard.
Correct.
But you haven't polled the kids to know how many are interested now in this, correct?
No, we have not, because we simply had this discussion before the programming studies was supposed to come out. And like I said before, it wasn't from me, it was from our teachers that are teaching Algebra 2 Standard now, who are going to be making the recommendations. And they suggested that we try to include this because they do think there's a type of kid in taking those classes that would like to take this class, more of a hands-on class at the advanced level.
Just a comment. The way high schools work with course registration, there are times where we don't run courses because there's just not enough student interest and our teacher teaches a section of something else.
Okay, for the students who currently take either pre-calc or calc with it also?
I've had calculus students take this class before. There's not a high, number that have done that.
Because of the camp.
That's right, but it's standard. But the ones that have taken it, it's a challenge. It's different than anything that they've ever taken, even though it's the standard level. The reason why we have it at the standard level right now is because we need, for not a lot of our students, but a portion, they need the 3 years of math to graduate. And this fulfills that requirement for them.
It fulfills the math requirement.
Yeah.
Correct.
Even though it's an elective.
Yes, the math 11.
All math.
It's in the same boat as the probability and statistics and discrete math.
Even,
The graduation requirement, we need 3 years of mathematics. 3 credits. So this would be potentially half a credit towards that. Again, it's for the students that generally are the probably math is not the first field half a credit.
Did you have any students that did not pass?
I've had students that have not passed yet. Yes, I've actually got one that's taking it second time this year with me.
So for students that are taking it their senior year, this is in addition to their 3 credits of math. So it's keeping them engaged in math for another year.
For the advanced level, that's what we picture. For the standard level, sometimes that is true, and other times this becomes their 3rd credit to graduate from high school.
So you have a student that's taking it again that needs these 3 credits to graduate.
Correct.
It just seems like a rocky road to me. It just seems, I think on 200 kids to have 20 kids in, and then now we're offering another course, it just seems kind of risky to me. That's just my thought.
strikes me that there's some disagreement on the board that we have to resolve via a vote. It doesn't strike me that it's a type of topic that we want to put on the table and have the administration come back with a refined proposal. So I think a motion would be in order. Jody?
I'd like to make a motion that the Wadsworth Board of Education approve the addition of postal navigation advanced to the mathematics curriculum.
Is there a second? Second. Great. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Count 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? Raise your hands. 4. The motion passes 5-4.
With that said, we do have administration and teacher support that we will continue to refine this course to meet some of the comments tonight in terms of embedding as much mathematical content into the course, and that the level of rigor is what you expect of any course we offer.
Thank you, Bruce. We now need to go into executive session to discuss pending claims and litigation. If I could have a motion to that effect and to invite Mr. Giard and Mr. Powers to the meeting. Jody? Is there a second? Amanda, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.